You're listening to the Actors Resource Podcast with Aaliyah Lay, a podcast for actors and improvisers, with interviews from entertainment industry experts.
Our guest is Kurt Koehler, who is an actor, writer, director in Los Angeles. He has many acting credits, including Big Bang Theory, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Young Sheldon, Girlboss, just to name a few. He also co-created the underground cult classic CHICO'S Angels in LA, now in its 17th year, and he teaches actors audition technique for TV and film. So first of all, because you have been a director and been involved in casting, what is the one most important thing actors need to book the job?
I would say the most important thing an actor needs is confidence.
Confidence, that's huge.
Confidence is everything. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean going in there cocky. It doesn't mean going in there above everybody. One, you want to take everybody else off a pedestal, that we go into an office and we're hungry and we want to please.
Yeah.
But you need to let go of that, and you need to let go of the need to book the job. That will help with the confidence. Another thing that helps with the confidence is just being prepared, making choices, rehearsing it, either with a scene partner or on your phone. And when you make choices and you've rehearsed it, like I look at it as a one-night performance. I'm going and doing this one-time performance, and then I'm leaving. If they call me in to do an encore, then I go in and do an encore. And if they want to book me for a world tour, then I'm going and getting a trailer and going on set. So
Yeah.
You have to look at it as the finished product, which a lot of actors are from a theater background in college, and you're really told not to be off book for an audition for a play, and you're not supposed to be memorized and completely giving them exactly what they're going to get, because there's going to be a rehearsal happening on stage when you do a stage show. But when you're doing a film or a television show, I would say mostly television shows are so high turnover and so quick that they're just looking for you to be the part and done.
So that's good to know as well. Like, I don't think a lot of newer actors would know that for sure, right?
Right. Well, newer actors are going in with the idea that a director is going to see their essence, and they're going to see that their resume is impressive, or none of that really is impressive. Your resume is impressive if you've done other television, not a bunch of theater. And you're not really auditioning for a director when you're auditioning for television, which is the other misconception from actors, because usually for film or theater, you are auditioning for a director, and there's producers, and the writer might have something to do with it. In television, you're auditioning for the writers. The showrunners are the executive producers, and they're also the writers. And there may be a specific writer of that episode, but the showrunners are on top of every script. So,
are the writers the decision makers?
Oh yeah. On television, yeah. And I'll say this too. I've worked on casting of films, and I have worked with directors who, have to listen to what the producer wants, and sometimes that producer is a big star and they want a specific person in the movie, where the director is happy with a bunch of actors the casting has already brought in. But because the actor in the movie is also a producer, they have say, and so do regular producers that aren't in the movie. They have a say for a film. But for television, your producers are your writers. They're the showrunners. So you are auditioning for a bunch of comedians, or not comedians if it's not comedy, who have been in the writer's room all week reading this out loud and each playing parts. So they already know what it's supposed to sound like, what the rhythm's supposed to sound like, and they probably already have a picture in their head what that person's supposed to look like. So it's all to do with you and nothing to do with you when you book. But the important thing is to book the room. That means being a favorite of the casting director, being a favorite of the producers, even though you're not right for this role. You did your work, you showed up, you're a professional. If you gush too much, or you're afraid of people in the room, what's going to happen when you get on set? You know, they want to make sure that you're not a live wire on set, and they want to make sure that you're confident enough to go on set. I saw Jen Fisher from The Office.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She played Pam, right?
Yeah, she played Pam. She wrote a book about acting, and she, you know, it's a really good book for especially beginner actors. But I skimmed through it, and I got to one part that I wanted to know more about from her was when she started booking co-stars and guest stars. And she put it really eloquently, I can't even say it. Eloquently.
Yeah.
That when you are booking a co-star, say you book your first co-star, you book your second or third, it's like being invited to a Thanksgiving dinner where nobody is your family. They're all family.
Yeah.
And you were just an invited guest that day.
Oh.
And it's awkward, and it feels awkward, and everybody's polite to you, but you don't want, I mean, you obviously don't want to bug the stars of the show unless they're talking to you, because you're like a temp for the day also. So there's no like all of a sudden you're going to be best friends with Amy Poehler on Parks and Rec because you're on her show for one day. And even so, the series regulars, they're doing a scene with you. You're only a couple lines. They're there all week. And they've got more script, and they've got more work, and they've got a read through coming up for the next week.
Yeah.
And you just have to kind of give them their space. If they want to talk to you, they want to talk to you. That's great. But you have to be that person that people want to hire because they're like, I want that person on set. I've seen it done where, the choices sometimes before a callback is that person is too wild to be on our set. Like I would never, casting wouldn't bring that person to, because they're a good reader, maybe good actor, but they're a little too familiar with everybody in the room all of a sudden. And they're too, it's like that person who comes to the party that nobody knows and they think that they're the life of the party. And that is not that is not workable on a set. There's a lot of working parts on the set, and makeup, grips, PAs, director, writer, the stars of the show. I mean, everybody. There's a ton of people, and you just have to deliver. And I don't know how else to answer that other than be somebody that they want to work with,
Yes.
And if everybody gets a chance to, if someone's casting a play or a short film or something, you really, as an actor, need to sit on the other side of the table and just be aware of what's happening and see how you are casting, see how you do as a casting director, because then you'll know what everybody wants to hire,
Yeah.
It's almost like being an actor where you have a big audition and you're having a hard time with the scene. Switch the parts with your scene partner or whatever. Read the other character and get a better insight on, oh, I'm this person in the scene. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're not listening to the other lines or the other characters so much because you're so worried about the audition and memorizing it and blah, blah, blah. But there's homework. And homework is knowing both sides. So when you sit on the other side of the table from casting, you kind of get a little glimpse into, God, their world is a very stressful world. They have to do this every day. I only have to come in here once every couple of weeks, and not the same office, or so confidence is everything. And how do you get confidence? You work at it.
Yeah.
You do the homework, and you don't put so much pressure on an audition. Jack Plotnick said, and Jack Plotnick is an working actor in LA, and if you look him up, he's got a great manifesto of stuff for actors to read, and there's a lot to read from him. But it's all free on the internet. And
nice.
Yeah, and he teaches classes. But the one thing I got from he does these little seminars, and when he does the seminar, it's $5 to go and listen to him talk for a couple hours.
That's really affordable.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, he's a working actor and he's been on Broadway, I mean, off Broadway, and he
Uh-huh.
writes and he's a working actor. He's on
Mm-hmm.
commercials, you'd recognize him.
Right.
But he said, let go of the need to book the job. And that's the best advice I have ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell my students that all the time. I said, let go of the need to book this job. I know you really want this job. This job's perfect for you, but it might not be perfect for you in the eyes of the writer.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you can do. It's all to do with you and nothing to do with you when you book.
Yeah.
So if you can just let go of the need to book, that confidence walking in the room suddenly is tenfold because
Mm-hmm.
you don't have anything to lose.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned like this is one of those things that you teach. What do you teach that is different from other acting classes?
Well, because I'm also a coach,
Yeah.
what I teach is not a scene study class, not a cold read class, but an audition class where I send you a co-star and guest star on Friday, and on Monday you are auditioning in class. So
Mm.
you figure out how much time you need with those sides. It's like working out. So if
Yeah.
you're working out every week, you build your body up. If
Right.
you're working out once and then 3 times in 1 week and then not for 2 months because the next audition is until 2 months, well, you put way too much stress on that audition now and you're not sure what worked before. And
Right.
by doing it every week, you're kind of figuring out, how do I memorize quicker? How do I do the script analysis quicker? And how long does it take till I'm confident in the scene?
Yeah.
These are the things that you need to learn. And I've been an actor. I still am an actor.
You're an actor, you're a writer, you're a director, you've been in casting. Yes.
And the last thing I want to do in LA is take cold read class because I think they're useless.
Mm.
Well, let's say this. Cold read classes is interesting because those are the first steps in your rehearsal for the audition. That is not the audition. If you're doing cold reading for your auditions, you're losing every opportunity
Mm.
and you get the sides beforehand. It's not a cold read and
Right.
they don't want a cold read from you. If they've given you the sides 2 days before the audition or the weekend before the audition,
Right.
they want you off book. They've
Yeah.
given it to you, so you'll work on it.
Yeah.
And your job as an actor is not the actual job on set. Your job as an actor is to get these auditions and make the most of them.
Right.
That's your job. And people don't see that as a job. People think of it as, oh, that's free work. And it is free work, but it's the same thing as building up a resume and going and getting a job,
Yeah.
or internships. People work for free. I
Yeah.
didn't know this. I wish I knew that in college. I would have been an intern in New York City and moved up the ranks way earlier.
Yeah. Right. Because you get that experience from being on the opposite side of the camera. So that's really helpful information.
Another thing is that people are afraid of free college shorts, or if it's a master's or a grad film, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to get some good tape on yourself. And the more sets you work on, the easier this gets.
Yeah. Practice.
Exactly. If you're not working on a set, if the first time you're working on a set is a big paid gig, it's not going to be your best work. But if you've been doing it for a while, you're actually going to do better work under that kind of pressure.
Right, because you have some experience behind you and kind of know what it's like to be on set, even if it's a different kind of set. You're not just like plunk.
Exactly. And it's not like you see people on TV shows and you go, oh my gosh, like Steve Carell on The Office is so amazing. Steve Carell on The Office, that wasn't his first time. He was on The Daily Show. He was in movies. He was doing sketch comedy in Chicago. He'd been performing for so long that by the time he got to The Office,
Mm-hmm.
his skill was perfection.
Yes.
And a lot of people on that show, you think they never worked before, and it's like, no, they've worked before.
You just may not have heard of them, but they've
Right.
worked. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Nobody's heard of me as an actor, but I've worked.
A lot. You worked a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
And the goal in this career is to just keep trying to get more work. Work begets work, and that's another thing that I always stress to people is work begets work, which means if you're doing something, you're going to get more. And if you're not in a class and you're not in a play or you're not doing a short film or a web series, whatever. As long as you are working, you'll book more.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's a muscle. And that's why I'm like, for my students, I keep it very cheap, inexpensive for them for the month. If they want to do my class as their workout. And
yes.
And I really love, because I'm a director and a writer, I really love watching and taking apart the puzzle of each student needs different things.
Yes.
Everybody's different. So it's just kept my class fresh for me. I really enjoy teaching it. And, when I first started teaching it, I kind of had to pinch myself. I couldn't believe I was getting to do this, to raise money for myself and pay rent.
I've taken your class, I love your class. I think you're great. So yes, highly recommend.
The actor preps.
Yes, the actor preps. I want to talk about Chico's Angels, a cult classic underground for 17 years in LA, as well as you're leading off towards the end, please share anything else that you would like to promote, how to reach you.
Well, you can find Kurt Koehler on Instagram. You can find Chico's Angels on Instagram. You can find Actor Preps on Instagram.
Can you spell those just in case?
Kurt Koehler, Kurtkoehler is Koehler. There's an E. It's not like the Kohler Plumbing. You got to add an E before the H. And Chico's Angels is just like it sounds. Chico's Angels.
Hilarious.
You can find on chicosangels.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find Actor Preps on Facebook. I put it everywhere. You can contact me anytime. My classes are 4 classes a month for $120, which is
so good. What a great deal. Yes.
And each class you get to read twice. You have a co-star and a guest star. And if you don't know the difference, a co-star is a few lines or one-liner. And the guest star is maybe more than one scene, but you're a character that's a little bit bigger on the show. And if you're, an actor and you're SAG, you know the difference between getting paid for a co-star and getting paid for a guest star is much better.
Yes, much better. Do you want to share how much?
I don't know what it is, and I know some new contracts are happening.
Right.
So, it's more than double when you play guest star. So when you're playing double, the residuals are great. Sometimes if you have more than one scene and there's only one-liner scenes, which is what they try to do, is they realize, we're going to need him for a couple days. So instead of a 1-day guest star, let's give him a 2-day co-star, which is kind of like getting paid for a 1-day guest star rather than pay me for a guest star for 2 days. And, I get it with budgeting because now I've been on both sides. I've seen when they actually have budget and they bump people to guest star. Well, they bump the roles to guest star so that they'll get bigger actors to come out for it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's not just because they have extra money. They're like, here you go.
Not just because they have extra money, but sometimes your co-star can get bumped to guest star, even though you're not a big star or anything.
Yeah.
So, the money side, I don't know. I just know you can look it up on SAG.
And then a little bit about Chico's Angels, because you touched on it.
It's a Latina comedy and drag. It's the Three Stooges in drag doing Charlie's Angels, solving crime and cha-cha pumps. And there's 6 2-act musicals we've written where they're, each, it's like a different episode. So it's a 2-act show on stage and they're solving a certain mystery by accident. Then we had Chico's in Space, which was really fun, and a couple other variety versions of Chico's Angels, but we can't do anything on stage right now, obviously. So we're trying to figure out what are we doing with it. I'm trying to write the TV show version of it, which I wouldn't mind if it was animation. Even that would be even better, because then we wouldn't need all 3 actors in the same state because one of our actors moved back to Texas.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a little difficult with when we do the stage show, he has to fly in, stay here for a while. And if we were doing animation, he could just record from Texas. We would never have to be in the same room.
And some of your ideas are kind of out there, right? So you could really, with an animation, you could literally go into space versus...
Yeah, and we can have a really great production value, which, something we shot. There is a web series on YouTube, if you look up Chico's Angels. 24-ish is my favorite. It's got 5 parts. They're only 3 minutes each, but they turn into like a 15-minute short version episode. Nice. that was a lot of money, and we wanted to make a feature. And when I look back, I'm like, oh, we should just did a feature uh, instead of all these web series. But you can't do, you have to do with what budget you have. And, you can't do a lot of big special effects or costly big props on set. You have to figure out how to do it as inexpensive and cheesy as possible, because our show is very cheesy.
It's great. Oh my God. I saw the Zoom version that you did recently.
Oh, the table
read. That's
Yeah.
it. That was great. Really great.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it. It's our 17th year. So we just turned 17 this past Saturday on July 25th.
Wow.
2003 was our opening night 17 years ago.
That is amazing. That's like a huge accomplishment.
No, it's something that fell into my lap, and I'm glad it did. And and that's the way the business works. I think when you're doing something that you enjoy rather than why you're doing it for money or success, the success part will come. So just let go of it, do something that you enjoy and why you enjoy it. And Chico's Angels was just something for the fun of it.
Fun is good. Yeah.
It just turned into this. So we're like, wow, okay.
Well, time is up. I just want to say thank you, Kurt, so much for being our guest here on the Actors Resource Podcast.
No problem. Thank you.
So everyone, please check out Kurt Koehler and Actor Preps. That's your class, as well as Chico's Angels.
You can go to kurtkoehler.com and get the links to everything. Everything's there.
And thank you for listening to the Actors Resource Podcast with me, Aaliyah Lay. I would love to hear from you, so email me, AliyahKLay@gmail.com. ALYAKLEI@gmail.com.